One of my proudest achievements in my first term was to create Space Force, the first new branch of the armed forces in over 70 years. It's a big deal. Now that Space Force is up and running, I agree with your leadership. You want this very badly, but I agree that the time has come to create a Space National Guard as the primary combat reserve of the U.S. Space Force. Very good. Right? Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So as president, I will sign historic legislation creating a Space National Guard until law. I spoke to somebody that's a great guy, very much a fan of yours, Marco Rubio. I said, what do you think? He said, I love this. I love it. I love it. So we're going to do that. Space Force has been very important, very, very important. When I did that, the other people came in, they wanted to end it, and they were just hammered because people realized how important. We were getting just destroyed in space, and now we're leading. We are leading with all of the major metrics in space. Russia and China were killing us because we didn't really have a focus on it. And once you did that, we have a focus, and now we're leading in space. Throughout the armed forces, we will make a historic investment in building a U.S. military for the 21st century, investing heavily in drones, robotics, artificial intelligence, hypersonics. You know, hypersonics was us. Somebody stole the stuff, and Russia ended up making them. But we're making them now. But Russia ended up making that super speed missiles. They go about 7 times faster than a regular missile, which is quite fast. And we're going to build a great Iron Dome for missile defense around our nation. Other countries have it. Israel has it. You know, Ronald Reagan wanted this many years ago, but we didn't have the technology at that point. But now we have the technology, so we're going to do the great Iron Dome, and it's all going to be built in our country. We're going to build it right here. And as your commander-in-chief, I will ensure that the National Guard members have access to train on the same state-of-the-art equipment as active duty forces. We're going to make sure about that. And I'll also get you reinforcement for allies abroad, making them pull their weight. They have to do that, and they have to pay their fair share, as I was saying. And for years, all of these NATO countries spent far less than 2% of GDP on their militaries, leaving our forces overstretched. We were the ones making up the difference and paying for it. To make up for shortfalls and help deter threats, I'll insist that every NATO nation must spend at least 3%. You have to go up to 3%. 2% is the steal of the century, especially when we're paying for it. You know, we pay for them. It's just not even believable. For most NATO countries, this will represent a defense budget increase of about 30%. And of course, if you take a look at their numbers are starting to dwindle because of all the money they're spending in Ukraine. Starting on day one, I will confront the recruiting, retention, and moral. When you talk about the crisis that you have a morale crisis because I think it's a country crisis. I think morale is about the leader of the country. I really do. I think, you know, you can only do so much. They have to be proud of their leader. They have to be proud of their country. They have to believe in their country. They have to believe in the American dream. You're going to have a morale problem, and that's what you have. You have a morale problem. We will get critical race theory and left-wing gender insanity out of the armed forces and totally out of the United States military. And we'll take care of our amazing veterans better than anybody. In my first term, I gave the VA choice and made it permanent. You know, VA choice, where you don't have a doctor, you go outside. I mean, people were waiting for 4 months, for 5 months. You people probably know it. You have friends that know it very well. They go in for something that was not a big deal, and they'd end up being terminally ill because they couldn't get to see a doctor. So I created and have VA choice. They've been wanting to do it for 57 years. I got it done, passed in Congress. And as you know, they now go in, if they can't get rapid service, we call it rapid service, then they go to an outside doctor. They get themselves fixed up, and we pay the bill, and it's been great. It's been great. But I understand that Biden wants to terminate it. He wants to go back to the old system where you wait for 9 months and then you die. It's not even believable. No, they want to terminate it. Now, after this speech, they won't. You know, every time I come in and say what really bad things, they end up, like I said, no tax on tips. It caught on like crazy. No tax on tips. This doesn't affect you guys. You're not big for tips, okay? You don't need tips. But there are a lot of people that no tax on tips is a big deal. And I said, no tax on tips. I went 2-3 months. All of a sudden, she's making a speech. And they were just the opposite. They were going after tip income, which is pretty hard to go after, in all fairness. And she's making a speech. She goes, oh, and by the way, no tax on tips. And it didn't play well for her. But they do that. Now on VA choice, you watch what's going to happen. They'll end up saying, oh, we want to keep VA choice. But they don't. They're not competent, and they don't. But VA choice has been one of the great, and the other is VA accountability. Do you know what that is, VA accountability? The veterans had some horrible, horrible people in there, sadists, bad people. They treated our veterans very badly because they weren't in prime time. You know, in prime time, they wouldn't have talked to them that way. But they weren't in prime time. And they were sadists and a lot of other things, thousands, 9,000 of them. And it was a shocking act of betrayal. We had to fire. We fired 9,000 people that were bad, and we replaced them with good people. And then Kamala and Biden gutted those reforms after they got in, and they tried to reinstate many of the people that were fired for good reason, because they weren't treating our veterans. They were sadists in many cases, vicious people. And then they gave them the option to come back or get a massive $200 million buyout. Can you believe this? Of people that treated our veterans badly. You know, I had the highest number, 92% approval from our veterans. It's the highest number by far ever. Now it's in the 40s. And it didn't take long to get there, but we had 92% approval rate from our veterans. Upon my inauguration, we will take the sadists that Kamala Harris let in and escort them from the VA hospitals and get them the hell out of our federal buildings and away from our great men and women. Because those who mistreat our veterans will not be protected. They will be terminated. We're going to terminate them. We're going to get them out. Can't believe we have to do it. It's like I have to say it a second time. Under Kamala Harris, American veterans are treated worse by far than illegal aliens. Illegal aliens are treated. You ever see them? They stay in hotels. We have veterans sleeping on the street, and inside luxury hotels you have people that came into our country, many from prisons, many from mental institutions, many terrorists, and they are treated better than our veterans. They don't care about our veterans. As borders are, Kamala has spent over $1 billion of taxpayer money to house illegal aliens and foreign migrants in some of the most expensive housing and hotels anywhere in the country. Meanwhile, more than 41,000 homeless American veterans are living in squalor on our streets.